Welcome back to my channel where I talk about things that interest me because that's all I do all the time. This one's a doozy, folks. So recently I learned of Everywhere at the End of Time, which is a 6-part music series that is framed around how dementia takes over someone's mind in its entirety. And it's basically just old, like kind of classical jazz, pop 20s stuff that gets progressively more distorted throughout its 6.5-hour runtime. So I've heard great things about the ending, and so I thought I'm just going to run through the whole thing in one big day-long stretch. I'm going to start at 8:30 here soon, and I'm going to be listening to it today as I mow the lawn, take a shower, eat breakfast, go to the print store, buy a Mother's Day gift, drop off outgoing mail at the post office, do film class homework, and make some DIY album covers I've been making for CDs of playlists that I've been making. I don't know how this is going to go. I've heard great things about the ending, but I have to be at film class at 6 o'clock. So hopefully I've given myself enough buffer time so that I don't get interrupted too much. So this should go all good. And once I'm done, I'm going to come back and share my thoughts about it and talk about it more. So I will be back in probably like 7.5 hours. See you then. So I'm done now, and I just recorded like 4 minutes and the camera messed up, so let's hope that doesn't happen again. But right before that, I had finished listening to it at about 3:20. It's about 3:33 now, and I started at 8:20, so it took like exactly 7 hours, basically. 30 minutes of stopping in between, like switching to different speakers, and I was buying things. So when I was, at the checkout counter, I wasn't listening to the music, and so I paused it for a bit. But otherwise, it was pretty much continuous the whole time, and I wrote notes in my phone the whole thing. I recorded it basically, and so everything but the last hour or so is going to be secondhand, me retelling it from my phone instead of just actually saying what happened, because it's kind of all a blur. The whole thing was one big experience altogether that I remember just a few certain parts of, and I only go into like a great amount of detail with 2 or 3 of these like notes that I kept. So 45 minutes in, there's this really nice like downlifter, and if you're not familiar with a downlifter, it's like a music term. It's the opposite of an uplifter, which is where you hear like in the background. A downlifter is the opposite. It's when it goes in the background of something to help it kind of ease out of a new section of a song. And I was listening to a really nice one, and I was like, wow, that's a really cool sound. And then it got cut off. That is the first time of many that something is cut off and just completely shifts immediately. And that continues on throughout the rest of the entire piece. I wrote here in my phone that it's felt like my YouTube music app was just stopping. It was like broken. And so definitely wasn't. I mark at an hour 36 that I hear the first major distortions, and I'm pretty sure that's correct. It's the first place where it's kind of like, kind of ripping up and like popping as if your CD is skipping a ton, and that it doesn't really get any better throughout the rest of the piece. I was mowing the lawn at 2 hours and 2 minutes in, and it was between my front lawn and my back lawn. I was walking the lawnmower between them in kind of the fenced-in alleyway between houses, and 2:02, 2 hours and 2 seconds, there's this part where it's kind of just been this kind of weird, like scary sounds, and then it cuts off and then goes immediately into something even more terrifying. I'd kind of got used to that kind of gameplay loop thing that was going on there, where I was just mowing the lawn, listening to this kind of like dark open sound, and it just immediately cut to this. And even though it was bright out, it was 10 a.m., there were kids playing across the street, everything was totally on the up and up, it was sunny, but I just felt afraid for a few moments while I got adjusted to this new section. At 2:14, I finished mowing the lawn, and I got to this point where it was like bell sounds or something. It was really nice, and it was nice to listen to in the middle of it because it had not really resembled music very well for a little while, and I was starting to kind of get a feel for like something I'm used to again. So once I got done with the mowing the lawn, I went inside and took a shower. So 6 minutes later, I wrote this big long paragraph. Whoops, camera was in the wrong spot. Where am I going to put graphics? Okay, so I have it right here. I'm just going to read it off. And I just sat for a couple minutes and just recorded my voice into my phone, and it wrote everything down. So this is kind of a stream of consciousness giant paragraph. Around 2:20, I went to take a shower, and I was not expecting it to be as scary as it was, because normally you feel safe when you take a shower once you grow out of that feeling that there's somebody with a knife on the other side of the shower curtain. Once you do that, you start to feel safe in the shower, and it's warm, there's probably a light right above your head, and it's comfy and clean, and it's a little reprieve from the rest of your day. But I didn't want to cut off this music. I didn't want to give myself that break. So I got out a water-resistant Bluetooth speaker, and I put it between the shower curtain and the inner shower curtain. And I played music while I was in the shower, just enough of a level for it to be uncomfortable, but not enough volume to disturb the rest of the people in the house. There were a couple points at the beginning and the end of my shower where something kind of notable happened in the music. There were these weird distorted record scratches, and it was like actually genuinely frightening. I didn't want to close my eyes while I was in the shower because I just didn't feel safe. But of course I have like shampoo and like face stuff to put on, and so I had to close my eyes. And it was the first time since I was like 7 that I felt genuinely afraid of just being in the shower and like closing my eyes for like 10 seconds. I also wrote that it was the first time since for a long time that taking a shower has felt unfamiliar to me. It really felt dangerous and not like something I do every day. 4 hours left to go. By 2:55, I spent 5 minutes listening to this part, also with the kind of like bell stuff. Maybe I was remembering wrong. The bells are definitely now. So this was this nice like plinking sound, and it reminded me of like when I'm in Ableton and I'm noodling on the piano, and it was really nice. I was just sitting there petting my cat, and it was nice. It was this little like chill section where I actually felt like better about it, like safer. At 3 hours 36 was another important part. I got to get in my car to go run some errands, and I was just listening to this kind of weird like I wrote serene bobbly boo going on, and it got kind of foggy in my glasses because I was wearing the mask, and I ended up having to take off the mask because it was fogging my glasses up too much for me to drive. But for that little bit where I was in the neighborhood and I had just this constant sound in my ears, it sounded kind of like this, and I had the mask on and everything, you know, my the fogginess was getting and like it, you know, got foggy and then unfoggy as I breathed it back in. It was this kind of weird, the whole world was kind of like surreal around me, and it kind of all felt safe for a minute, and then bam, a big change again. Right when you start to get used to it again, it throws you into something new and scary, and that's really good. That's really good. At 3:40, for the first time in like a really long time, I heard music. It had for a while now just been weird ice cave sounds that I wasn't really seeing any pattern in. It wasn't really music. And then at 3:40, there's this moment where it goes from to, and that's really nice. But then I wrote at 3:41, I said, please bring it back, because it goes from to woohoo, an abrupt lighting change. At 4 hours and 9 minutes, I started to hear a lot of this weird sound that reminded me of this like screeching in Flesh and Metal from the Doom 2016 soundtrack. It sounds like this. after that, it was just kind of just sounds, ice cave sounds again, until it got towards the end. And I was doing some arts and crafts. I was doing these like things with photos that I was printing out, and I finished it all. I got everything put away, and then the ending happened. Spoiler alert for the ending. It's pretty intense once you've gone through the whole 6 hours. So if you do plan on doing this yourself, and listening through the whole way, don't listen to what I'm about to say, because what I say spoils what happens in the end. I'd also recommend that you don't go and just listen to like 5 seconds and skip all the way through it and then get to the end and listen to that, because it doesn't do it justice until you've got the whole picture in your head. And I know that sounds like, oh, pretentious. Wow, go listen to the whole 6.5 hour long album that I listened to. But it's really like that, you know? So it's not the most incredible thing you've ever heard in your life, but it is like, okay, I guess I expected that, but I kind of didn't. And it kind of will blow you away a little bit, the choice that the caretaker made. So after 6 hours and 24 minutes, or 6 hours and 26 minutes or so, the last 5 or 6 minutes are just, you hear like a slamming, and I don't know what the sounds are. I don't know if it's like the patient being put in a coffin or being cremated or something like that. But it kind of felt like, to me, what I imagined in my head was someone being put in a coffin from the inside of a church where there's a funeral procession of some sort happening, and there's a chorus and there are songs being played by a small orchestra. And that might not be what is the intended effect. That's what I got out of it. That's what it sounded like to me. That's what I experienced. It goes on for a really long time, and then it just cuts out, and there is a minute and like 2 seconds of silence at the end, just blank, nothing there. Obviously representing death. This is a patient with dementia, probably older, and it ends in death. That's the name of the last song. Is Place in the World Fades Away. So it's death. Some of the stages had really interesting parts where the descriptions are really, really accurate to what is going on. Because once you get into like stage 5, it's all just a mishmash of like pain sounds and just like fear in an audio form, going through plaque entanglements and synapse retrogenesis and stuff like that. But in stage 3, I think it was the most interesting one, because, you know, in stage 2, things start to kind of fall apart. In stage 3, that's the good part. So I'm going to read off the description from the description of the YouTube video. Here we are presented with some of the last coherent memories before confusion fully rolls in and the gray mists form and fade away. Finest moments have been remembered. The musical flow in places is more confused and tangled. As we progress, some singular memories become more disturbed, isolated, broken, and distant. These are the last embers of awareness before we enter the post-awareness stages. This is the last part of it where there's recognizable stuff. The post-awareness stages are just sound. And it's kind of grueling to sit through 4 hours of that. Stage 3, it kind of encapsulates the whole thing. It's a microcosm of the entirety of the piece. You go from stuff you recognize it to just garbage that is completely unrecognizable. I specifically remember listening through it, and when I got to stage 2, Quiet Dusk, coming early at an hour 7:17, the song D2, I remember specifically looking it up because I thought it was actually like really nice. And I thought that was the last song that I remember hearing and going, that's pretty music. This is nice. I'm listening to this. I don't really have much else to say on the topic. I listened to it all the way through, and the ending was really nice. And I can't. The words don't come when I try to explain it in anything other than like, oh, it's unfamiliar and it's weird and wow, it's dementia for sure. I just can't explain it, but it's a pretty good piece. I'm glad that I listened to it all the way through, instead of just skipping through it, which is what I initially planned on doing, just like most people, I assume, because who listens to this? The only reason I did this was because I think it's interesting to kind of relay it to other people. It definitely got across the feelings of not being able to feel familiar with anything for longer than just a few moments, which is, I guess, kind of the main thing with dementia, is that, everything familiar turns unfamiliar, and you start to think you see familiarity and unfamiliarity, and it's just this downward spiral, and I definitely got that. It does a good job of getting that across. I don't know where I was going with this. I just thought it'd be interesting to listen through and go over it and, kind of explain what I felt. So that's all. I hope I taught someone something.